Hello, this is my latest video, and my subject today is going to be gratitude, based upon some of the things that have happened to me in the last 2 years. I have things to be grateful for further back than that, but 2 years ago I had what I would call an exceptional change in direction in the way my life was flowing. I suffered from depression. I haven't had an official documentation of it, but 2 years ago I hit the peak where my moods were sliding very high and very low, and yet it was like a second person, and the person inside me was fine, and I was battling to keep my level, keep myself on a level playing field, and I'd be fine for some moments, and then the next moment I couldn't focus, I couldn't talk to people. I'd be overcome with an immense sadness and at times desire to hurt myself. Those moments were few and far between, but having gone through my alcoholism, the recovery of my alcoholism nearly 30 years ago, it prepared me somewhat for the depression. I didn't know what was going on, but I knew that I had to stay the course and not listen to what my body seemed to want me to do, which was hurt myself and give up. Anyone that's known me through the course of my life, I'm not a person that gives up. I'm not a person that quits easily. I don't give up on people. I've learned to let go of things, not give up, because I believe if a person or a thing is meant to happen, it'll happen all in its due time. The ups and downs went on for quite a few months, and I was posting on Facebook, and I think my posts were catching some people like, what the hell's going on with him? I had a Facebook friend who was a motivational speaker. He must have seen what was going on, and he suggested that I go to a speaking engagement that was being given by former Lions quarterback Eric Hufnagel. I knew a little bit about Eric's history with depression before I went there. I knew his son had committed suicide at an age, I believe it was 15, I'm not positive, and I came to find out as he spoke that he had issues too, and his issues, the way he detailed them in his talk, were very similar to mine. And I had an opportunity afterwards to speak to Eric, and I got a sense that I needed to be medicated. I didn't go into great detail what was going on with me. I just wanted to move forward and find an answer to what was going on inside me. He suggested that I contact my doctor, and he gave me a few medications, and I also talked with some people on Facebook who I knew had dealt with various things, what they thought might be the best course to actually do. And when I went into my doctor, the thing that I asked from her is if she could put me on Zoloft. That seemed like, for me, the one that seemed safest, less likely to wild reaction, and hopefully it would work. I have to say, my doctor is incredible. She has an amazing way with her patients, and she cares very deeply about them. Months back, I had, years back when I first started with her, I had detailed about my alcoholism and my recovery, and I've been very dedicated to that. And she assured me that this was non-addictive, and that in about 2 months, if it was going to work, it would happen. Not exactly 2 months, but it was kind of funny. A 2-month anniversary of me starting to take it, I woke up and it was a really nice day, and I said, this is a beautiful day. I need to have something to do. And I had not been like that for many, many years. I've dealt with a lot of disappointment, loneliness, letdowns, just all sorts of things. And yet, I just kept saying, things will work out, I'll figure out a way. Well, the Zoloft worked, and it has been working for nearly 2 years. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for my friend Kurt David, who was the Facebook friend who guided me to that speaking engagement of Eric Hipple. And I'm grateful for Eric Hipple as well as my personal physician. Between the three of them, they led me in an area where I was able to move forward with my life in ways that at the time I started taking the drug, I couldn't have imagined. Once it started working, and I wanted to I know the way sometimes antidepressants and different medications work. It's not a permanent fix, and sometimes there has to be adjustments and things along that line. So my dream many years ago was to go to school and get a degree and possibly work with kids who are in danger of addiction or getting off the wrong way and not fulfilling their promise. This is something that I had detailed to Bob Probert when I met him back in 1989 when I was early in my recovery. The whole conversation about what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it, I think he was impressed. I talked a great game, but at that time I believe depression was already there. I just didn't realize it had manifested itself in a much larger way, the way it did just before I became medicated. And when I said that to Bob, and because his words of encouragement to me were so vital when I finally felt like going back to school and finding the courage to do so and overcoming my fears that had probably been reinforced probably for well over I mean, probably for well over 40 years. And I've had to learn how to, at times when I say I don't want to do something, there is something inside me that says, yeah, I want to do that. Well, when I went back to school, I planned my first semester out with my counselor. And my first class, I got a B+. For me, it was a lot. It was not really a lot of hard work, but it took a different kind of work. And I did not check my grades. I just knew, I got a percentage, and I tried to figure out the percentage and figure out where I was. And I got the B+. Well, as I finished the first semester, me and the counselor again went over my schedule, and we tried to make a plan over the course. Of course, it was the remainder of my first year in school, and my second class was sociology, which at face value, because I've been away from school for well over 30 years, I didn't really know what it was about, but I thought it would be boring. And teacher I ended up having, she'd been teaching for over 50 years, and she had a unique style, and she wanted terms. Well, a lot of the terms I knew, but just I knew the action behind it, but I didn't know the terms. And but I learned enough of them, and I did a lot of extra credit. And by the end of the year, again, I just figured out my percentage. I didn't know what her grading scale was going to be, and I pulled an A. And so my confidence level has been going up, and so I decided to take the summer off. And in the meanwhile, I thought, well, I'm losing a semester. I'm going to take 2 classes in the fall. So I am taking a basic math class, which is a prerequisite, and I'm taking a speech class. In the sociology class, near the end of the class, she got together with another teacher, and we could do extra credit speaking in front of the class. But we were told to email the other professor, which I did, but I didn't use my school email. Apparently, that teacher emailed me back on my school email, and I didn't see it while I was in class, and class was nearly up. Our speaking was supposed to be 4 to 6 minutes, and my subject was recovery, the stigma of recovery, and what the government and society could do to improve that. And I also talked about the upcoming walk on the National Mall in Washington, D.C., which I hope to attend, because I think that a lot of people who are not addicted tend to use terms that are demeaning and take away from a person's confidence to overcome whatever they need to overcome. And that includes mental issues such as depression and other things that are easily controllable, but with some of our words, we tend to cause people to not seek help by ridiculing something that maybe they cannot control and medication can, at least as far as mental illness. And recovery, there's so many facets to it that can cause someone to rehab, that constantly looking for things and reaching out to things that enhance your recovery. it's almost like a job within your life, between having your job and doing whatever else you're doing. And it takes real dedication, and some people, it's much more difficult. To me, I knew in my recovery that it was my only way. So it's been 2 years since I've been on this medication, and my life is looking up, and I'm achieving things that I wasn't sure would ever be possible. Life intercedes when you're in recovery, and then you have a depression you're not even aware of, and you're trying to get through things, and people just keep pulling the rug out underneath you, and you don't even realize it. It just, for me, it was, I kept getting back up, and for some people it would annoy them. Why doesn't he just go away? Well, I'm in society, and I'm here to stay. Ever since I was very young, I've been told I have a personality of a bull that likes to run through a bull in a china shop. It really is, and I've learned to control it for the most part. But there are times when I know things that I want, and I'm not going to take a back seat to anyone. You might not like the way I am, and I have no problem with someone disliking my personality. People like or dislike personality, but sometimes people do things purposely to try and trip you up, because they see you're not willing to think that this is all life has, and they themselves can't do it, and so they get jealous, or it bugs them that you just won't quit. I've learned to ignore those people. I'm all about somebody is having a problem, and I can tell it's something, maybe mentally, maybe it's addiction, maybe it's something else. I try to reach out to them, and sometimes it puts the person off. Sometimes people think that I'm trying to preach to them, you shouldn't drink, you shouldn't this, you shouldn't that. I'm really trying to help that person be the best they can be, and only that person knows what is going to be best for them. And if I offend people when I do that, I apologize. It just, I can't stand to see people suffer. I suffered for so many years with no one really trying to lift a finger for me. And then when I was 27, stranger Bob Probert, I reached out to him. I told him my story. I told him why I was such a fan. It wasn't the usual, man, you fight great, or you're this, or you're that. To me, it was him revealing his weakness. And I've come to find out, a good friend of mine did charity work with Bob. And I always had a feeling about Bob from the time he was drafted, that he was a good person and probably misunderstood. And I knew about people misunderstanding me. So, in a way, we were like brothers. We were like soulmate friends that never really got to know each other. my friend who I knew him at 18. I knew him at 18, and he back then I was all about Bob, and they would give me crap about him. He got busted with drugs. He had stuff with alcohol, and I knew there was a worthwhile person underneath all that. And after I left him, and I had a feeling that his days of drinking were not done, and he had just done what many people would refer to as a decent thing, what for me was a life-changing thing. In my heart, the one thing I had for him was prayers that he would find someone who would help him find peace in his heart, and he would have a happy life and maybe find a way to get away from his addiction. Addiction is not something we choose. Sometimes because of things that confront us, that overwhelm us, that's a way of escaping from the things that hurt us most. And it was good to hear my friend tell me, over 20 years after the fact, after Bobby passed, you knew his soul. At the end, he was clean. And he found a wonderful, amazing woman, beautiful as well, and had 4 beautiful kids, well-adjusted, very smart, funny, and they help me now that Bob's gone, because I see part of his spirit inside them. And if I can hold to my words when I told them that I wanted to go back to school and get a degree, and I get that piece of paper, and I get up on that stage, I'll know, even though I didn't promise him that, I will have kept my word for Bob. And although I know help people now via Facebook or Twitter when they're struggling, to be able to help somebody and help them understand that addiction is not permanent. Depression is not permanent. We all have a warrior inside of us, a fighter. And we can never give up. We are greater than the forces that try to bring us down. If we are trying to do the right things will come to us. Got a little emotional there because I love Bob and Eric and Kurt. Just amazing how he was able to guide me to Eric and helped me see that there was a way, and I knew there was a way. God presented it to me. There is always a way. There's always, as Louis Zamperini said, don't give up. There's always an answer. Keep looking, keep trying. There's always an answer. That's my thought for today. Thank you.